Hey, Adi, welcome back.
Hello, nice to see you again.
Yeah, nice to see you as well.
Hmm.
How's everything going?
Everything the same.
Same as a couple of minutes
Only
ago,
fast,
yeah.
fast.
Uh-huh. No, absolutely. Things change like that.
Hmm.
But yeah, I was looking at some of the pictures that some of the Colingo folks are putting on the Facebook site. A lot of activity, actually. People are sharing news about concerts coming up and musicians and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, so interesting stuff. There seems to be a lot of students from different parts of the world, of course, but some of them seem to be a lot of Saudi Arabian students, a lot of Brazilian students.
Yes, yes.
Seems like
Saudi
Colingo.
Arabia and Brazil and huge amount, almost all,
Yeah,
maybe 70% of students.
really that high.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Japan only two.
yeah. You and Ken. I've seen you and Ken. I think was there maybe one other person? I don't remember. Maybe some other one other Japanese person, but maybe not actually. I think it was just you
Recently,
guys.
Chinese students disappeared. How do you think?
Yeah, there are a few Chinese students. I know some of them every once in a while they have some of their they join a few classes, but yeah, otherwise it's been a lot of Brazilian people, a lot of people from South America in general, actually,
Hmm.
and also from Saudi Arabia, a decent amount. So interesting, interesting situation. But yeah, it's good. It's very good. I like the the diversity we have on Colingo. We have people from many
Yeah.
countries. Yeah, and the teachers also are from many different places. So some of the teachers are from Canada, some of them are British, some of them are Americans, so you guys get a good mix
Hmm.
of different accents and different, you know, perspectives. That's always very important. But yeah, besides that, I mean, things are pretty good, I think.
One of new teachers, Britain, his accent is much different.
Oh, really?
Yeah, sometimes I couldn't understand.
What's his name?
Eh, I forgot.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's sometimes it's there's a ton of people that we have to sometimes remember names. I know a few people joined recently. We haven't had a party with them yet. Usually we have a party on Google Hangouts. Um, I haven't seen his. Maybe actually, let me check. I might know who it is. Possibly. Let's see. Is it Kurt? No, Kurt's Australian.
I know.
Uh, Lauren. No,
Huh?
Martin. Martin.
Yes, yes, yes.
Martin Stoner. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, he's. I think he's new. I haven't talked to him yet.
Mhm.
He likes kayaking, playing tennis, ice skating. That's awesome. Good mix. A lot of different places. And yeah, no, that's awesome. I Daniel is Canadian. A lot of the other people are Americans. Uh,
Daniel is South Africa.
Daniel Peens or
Yes,
Daniel
yes, South
Watson.
Africa. Some
Daniel.
some students asked him, "Are you native?" He said, at first uh, he learned about African language.
Oh wow,
Later, he learned English.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So he's really interested in different kinds of languages, I'm sure. And then let's see, I know Daniel Watson. Shanae is also very.
Mhm.
She's done a lot of classes. But yeah, we have a good group. I'm just looking at some of their profiles, and Alan is from Australia. Um, so yeah, good group, awesome.
Yeah.
That's. Have you taken a class with Samantha before?
Almost all of the teachers I know.
Oh, that's
I know
awesome.
all teachers.
That's good. I wanted to watch one of Samantha's classes. She's done a lot of classes before, so I was
Mhm.
wondering. Yeah, that's great. That's great. And Stephanie is from Cincinnati. Okay,
Yeah.
I haven't seen any of
Yes,
their
yes.
classes yet, unfortunately.
No, she is staying in Taiwan.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Mhm.
So she's doing traveling different places.
She is studying maybe Chinese.
Nice, nice, nice.
And
Mandarin probably. Yeah.
Bridget,
Yes.
she's in Austria.
Oh yeah, she's in Austria. Yep.
Mm.
She's learning German.
German, yes.
Nice, nice, nice. That's great. I know somebody else is in Europe also. Lauren, I think.
Timothy is in Thailand.
Oh, Timothy's in Thailand. Okay,
Yeah.
but he's originally from the U.S. Okay. Then we have Madison is I think in Wales.
Hmm.
Yeah, she's in England right now. Okay, interesting. Cool, cool, very cool. A good group of people, different places. So awesome, Heidi. Let's get started. So today we're going to be talking about adverbs of frequency, and we're also going to be looking at a new kind of development in the international world about the U.S. military kind of restructuring their organization. Since the war in Afghanistan began in 2001, so it's been about 12 years now, the U.S. has been using air bases throughout Europe and Central Asia to as kind of transit points for the soldiers and for all of the equipment that needs to go from the United States to
Maybe I
Afghanistan.
learned about Romania from you, right? Before, no?
Potentially, yeah. I talk about a lot of stuff, but yeah, has now decided to allow the U.S. to open a base in Romania,
They don't
and
have any country, right? Own country.
no, no, no. So that was the Roma people.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, yeah. So the Roma people are kind
Romania.
of
I
they,
understand.
some of them do live in Romania. Some of them do live in Romania.
Dracula, right?
Yeah, Dracula, yeah, Transylvania. So the
Mm.
old name of Romania was actually Transylvania.
Yeah, yeah,
The
I see.
ancient name, yeah. So Dracula was from Transylvania, exactly. So Romania is known for interesting things, definitely for Dracula, definitely for some other things as well. But the country as a whole, I believe this is their first time that they are actually hosting a U.S. base. Germany has a very large U.S. base, and some other countries like Turkey has a large U.S. base as well. But this is
Mm.
the first time that I think Romania is doing it. So we'll look to see what the implications of that are. Hopefully, it's not going to be something too boring. I don't know a lot about Romania, but I think the article will be able to speak a little bit to that. So let's get started then with adverbs of frequency, Heidi. And the question I had for you was, how often do you go shopping?
I I sometimes go shopping.
You sometimes go shopping, right? So fantastic. That's the correct way to answer. Sometimes is one of the adverbs of frequency that we're going to look at today, right? We use adverbs of frequency to talk about how often something happens, right?
Mm.
So if something is happening 100% of the time, what are some of the adverbs we can use?
Mm. Yeah.
Well, what are some of the adverbs we can use if it's something 100% of the time?
Usually.
Not 100% of the time, right? So if it's something that's happening 100%, like
Occasionally.
no, that's even less than usually, right? 100% of the time would be always.
Always 100%.
Yeah, if something is always happening, then that means it's happening all the time, right? 100% of the time.
100%.
Yeah, 100%, right? So you can say always, you can also say every time.
Every time, yeah.
Every time something happens, right? So every time I go outside, I watch the sunset. I don't know, right? 100% of the time, we use always and every time, right? So these are things that happen without fail, right? They happen every single time, 100% of the time. Now, for 80% of the time, what can we say? For something that's a little bit less certain,
Often.
often, exactly. So we can say often, and we can also say one of the words you said before.
Usually.
Yeah, fantastic, right? So usually And often are the words that we use when we are talking about most of, like, more than half of the time, but not all the time, right? More than half of the time, more than 50% of the time, but definitely not all the time, right? We use usually and often. So I usually go to the supermarket after or on Friday nights or whatever, I don't know. So you usually do that, right? It's something that you do more often, more than half the time, but less than 100%.
This is not adverb frequency, but whenever I do something with a kind of always, right?
When you say whenever, yeah, it's saying that you're technically saying whenever I do something, each time I do this action, right? Whenever I go walking, each time I go walking, I stop at the waterfall. I don't know, right? So yeah, exactly.
With every time or always?
You mean out of those two, which one do we use?
Yeah.
Whenever or
Whenever meaning every time.
whenever
Every
means
time.
every time. Yeah,
Every
whenever means
time
every time.
when I do something.
Yeah, exactly. You can say whenever I do something or every time I do something. Both of those work. Both of those work, right? Every time I do something and whenever I do something. So that's 80% so that's 100% of the time. 80% of the time we use usually and often. What about 50% of the time?
Sometimes.
Exactly. Sometimes, and there's one more also. You said it before in this class.
Occasionally.
Yeah, fantastic, right? So 50% of the time we use sometimes or occasionally, right? And it's a little bit more of a I mean it's almost up to personal choice when you which one you use, right? I tend to say sometimes. More I think it's more common than occasionally. Although it doesn't matter. People say both of them all the time. So that's about 50% of the time, right? What about if something is less than 50% of the time, but also, yeah, so if something is about 25% of the time this happens, we can say seldom, and there's one other word we can use.
Rarely.
Rarely, right? So rarely and seldom, right? We use these mainly when we are discussing different situations, like different situations that we once in a while do, right? Once in a while. So, for example, I actually no. Once in a while is a little bit more like sometimes almost. I would say, okay, what's something that you do rarely, Heidi? I'll ask you to make the question or to make the answer. What's something that you do rarely?
Using seldom.
Rarely. We can use rarely or seldom. Yeah, whichever one you want. Yeah.
I seldom eat junk food.
Fantastic. I seldom eat junk food. I rarely eat junk food, right? So we can use both of those examples. Good. I think that makes sense. So seldom and rarely we use when it's less than half the time, but not never, right? By saying never, I just gave you the next answer. So what if something is 0% of the time?
Never.
Never, right? Fantastic. So if something never happens, that means that it doesn't happen at all, right? Never happens. 0% of the time. So I never go to bed at 6 o'clock, right? It's way too early. I never go to bed at 6 o'clock, right? So we use never for 0%, always and every time for 100%, and then the other ones are kind of in the middle, right? So we have the 80%, the 50%, and the 20%. Any questions about that list, Heidi? This list of different adverbs of frequency.
In Japan, for example, never different word. Yeah, sure. But we shouldn't use never.
In Japanese?
Yes.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. So what do you guys say instead of never?
Never is very strong. So you shouldn't say never.
Do people say seldom then or rarely?
Yeah. Yes.
But what if you never do something? What if you never ever do something?
For example, I'll never eat Korean food, but you shouldn't say never.
Mm-hmm.
Still, it's possible in the future.
Oh, that's true. Actually, that's a good way of looking at it, right? So Japanese people say never.
Ah, yes, yes.
That's great. It's a kind of a funny phrase, and I think there's a movie named Never Say Never. But no,
Yes.
that's really cool. I did not know that about Japanese.
How about America? Is it easy to say never?
Oh yeah, we say never all the time. All
I,
the time. We might overuse never. I think we overuse never and we overuse always, except all the
but
time because when we're exaggerating.
but a different day you do that.
Yeah, why
Okay,
not? Why not? Yeah, you can. I
you
mean,
said never.
I never do something, right? I never wake up before 6 o'clock, but maybe one day I do. I don't care.
Really?
We love to exaggerate, right? We're always making up things. Yeah, it's kind of sad. Like if you hear normal people speak, we are so sarcastic, right? We're always just making up things, exaggerating.
Mm.
Um, yeah, it's part of the culture, I guess. Kind of crazy. But yeah, so never say never in Japan, but always say never in the U.S. Right? We love to exaggerate. So, but it comes with a cost, though. It comes with a cost. People like me who are usually very sarcastic. Like if I'm with my friends, I'm joking, I'm exaggerating. Uh, it has its costs sometimes. If people don't understand you, then they might get offended. So you have to be careful. I learned that the hard way. So good, good. Okay, so then how do we use these verbs, right? So if a sentence only has one verb and that verb is not the verb to be, then we put this adverb of frequency before that verb, right? If the sentence only has one verb and that verb is not the verb to be, right? Only has one verb and that verb is not the verb to be, then the construction is subject plus the adverb of frequency plus that verb, right? So I sometimes go to the movies,
Yeah.
right? I never go to the beach, right?
Yeah.
I never go to the beach, right? So those are the ways we put that adverb of frequency immediately after the subject because there's only one verb in that sentence and the verb is not the verb to be, right? So what's an example of another sentence like this, Heidi?
Mm. I I never I never I for example I'll never go to North Korea.
I will never go to North Korea, right? Fantastic. And there's only one verb in that sentence, and what was that verb?
Verb this is two verb, one is auxiliary. So we need to put after auxiliary.
Well, no, I'm just saying in the sentence you said, what was the verb?
Verb is go.
Fantastic, right? It's the only verb we have. So we never goes just before go. I will never go to North Korea. Fantastic. And then what about if the sentence only has one verb
One
and
verb
that verb
before
is the
before
verb to
verb.
be though?
Yeah, before verb.
Well, no, let's think about this. If the sentence only has one verb
One
and
verb.
that verb is the verb to be,
Mm.
then the adverb of frequency goes after the verb to be,
No, okay.
right? So if it only has one verb and that verb is the verb to be, then we have to put the adverb frequency after the verb to be. So let me write this out.
For example, I'm always afraid of
I am always afraid of
darkness.
darkness. Uh-huh. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That works perfectly, right? If the sentence only has one verb and the verb is the verb to be, so what was that verb to be in your sentence?
Afraid.
Was
But
that
be
the verb? Yeah, what was the verb in that sentence that you said?
yeah, be afraid both the verb.
Yeah, be afraid is a verb, but when you said I am always afraid, so am is the verb, right?
Yes, yes.
Am is the verb. So because am is the verb, always goes after am, right? I am always afraid of the dark or darkness. Yeah, fantastic. So adverbs of frequency, really, the way we use them in a sentence depends on how many verbs there are and which verbs they are, right? So if there's only one verb and it's not the verb to be,
these three verbs.
I could have done. So this is the next example, right? So the next example that we're going to look at is if we have a sentence with two or more verbs, then the adverb goes between the first and the second verb.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how many other verbs there are. It always goes between the first and the second one, right? So I could never have done this. I could always have done this, something
We
like
can
that.
say I could have never done.
Well, no, that wouldn't work, right? Because it goes between the first and the second verb.
Okay.
So I could have never done this. No, I could never have done this.
Okay,
I could never have done this. Yeah. Although I can definitely understand how people would sometimes say I could have never done this. I think people do say it that way, but it's not. but it's not correct. Honestly, I think native speakers also use that. I think I have said that before, but it's not. We don't want to use it. So the sentence has two or more verbs. Then we put the adverb of frequency always between the first and second verb.
Okay.
Right. So what's another example that we can have? Yeah, Heidi, is there another sentence that we can make with one of these sentences, two or more verbs?
Okay. I have been eating. How about
I will have been eating. Well, this is what? Future perfect continuous, right? So it's kind of complicated with this example, right?
I miss typing. I will.
I will never.
Yeah.
This is a weird example, but it's a good example, right? Because when we think about it like this, will is an auxiliary verb, right? So I think the object or the adverb of frequency will still go between have and been.
I will never have.
I will have never.
I will have never.
Or actually, no, I'm sorry, that doesn't work. I will never have. You're right. It's going to be between the will and the have.
I will never have. Okay.
I will never have this. I will never have this project completed. I will never have completed this project by tomorrow or whatever, right? I will never have this project completed by tomorrow, something like that.
I will never have eating. I will never have eaten snake.
I'll never have eaten snake in my life. Yeah, right? I will never have eaten snake in my life. Yeah, but when we use the perfect, future perfect like this, it's a little bit more, it's definitely a little bit more of a tricky situation when it comes to making the grammar, absolutely. But I think this is the right way to do it. You put the adverb frequency between the first and the second verb. Yeah. So any questions about those types of constructions, Heidi?
No, thank you very much.
Yeah, sure, that's fine. I'm learning too sometimes when you ask some of these questions. It's good for me. The other thing I wanted to say was, so when we want to make questions using the adverbs of frequency, or when we want to know how often something happens, right? That's how we start the question. We ask, how often, blah, 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 right? How often? So ask me a question like that, Heidi.
How often do you practice judo?
How often do I practice judo? I never practice judo. I don't know judo.
Okay.
So yeah, but that's a great question, right? That's how we ask, right? How often, like when I asked you earlier, how often do you go shopping? The answer was, I sometimes go shopping.
Yes.
Right. exactly, exactly. I sometimes go shopping. So once again, because we have the one verb and it's not the verb to be,
Mm.
it sometimes goes before the verb, right? I'm trying to think. So how often is how we make questions, and yeah, that's really it. I mean, grammar-wise, that's the only. Those are the things that we want to talk about. Did you have any other questions, Heidi, before we move
No
on?
question.
Okay,
Thank you.
fantastic. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Very clear for me.
Good, good, good. I know sometimes some of these lessons are much more clear-cut. They have more. They're easier to understand, definitely, than some of the other ones that we have. So I like to. I like the lessons that are more easy to understand. Okay, so then let's take a look at what's going on in Romania with with this U.S. military base. Hopefully, things don't go crazy, and America has a lot of military everywhere in the world. So
Mm.
I don't know how bad it's going to be or how good it's going to be, but so that's the article, Heidi. It's a BBC article, and I'm also going to screen share, and we will see what is going on. So the U.S. the U.S. to use Romanian airbase for Afghan pullout. The U.S. has agreed a deal with Romania to use an airbase there as a transit point for American forces leaving Afghanistan, officials have said. The agreement was reached at bilateral talks at the Pentagon. The move will allow the U.S. to switch its flight operations to Romania from Kyrgyzstan's Manas airbase, when the U.S. lease there expires in July 2014. Washington plans to withdraw most of its 52,000 troops from Afghanistan by the end of 2014. The U.S. wants to keep a smaller force in the country after the deadline, but is still negotiating key details with the government in Kabul. The deal about the use of Romania's Mihail Kogalniceanu airbase was agreed during the talks between U.S. Secretary of Defense Chuck Hagel and Romanian Defense Minister Mircea Dusa. In a statement, Pentagon spokesman George Little said Mr. Hagel praised this agreement, which is particularly important as the U.S. prepares to wind down transit center operations at Manas. Secretary Hagel highlighted this agreement as a further testament to Romania's steadfast commitment to the ISAF, International Security Assistance Force mission, and its commitment to regional and international security. However, details of the deal were not released. The base is near the Black Sea town of Constanta. In June, Kyrgyzstan's parliament voted to end the U.S. lease on Manas in July 2014. The U.S. pays $60 million each year to lease the base, which has been in operation since 2001. Russia also has an airbase in Kyrgyzstan, for which it agreed a 15-year extension last year, right? So, very interesting situation. I think a little bit of what we are seeing here is kind of a power play between these two countries, right? Um, China is very nearby. Russia is right there. Kyrgyzstan used to be part of Russia. The United States has been also there for the last 12 years now. So, what do you think about this, Heidi? Is this something that is maybe there's something more going on behind the scenes than we know?
I don't know. Russia and America the relationship nowadays. Still, they are kind of enemy each other.
I think there's some antagonism, definitely. There's some distrust, some mutual distrust between those two countries. They don't trust each other.
And because putting the air force means looking at Russia, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly, right? So Russia has an air base in Kyrgyzstan already. Kyrgyzstan's government decided to not renew their lease, so they asked the U.S. to leave in July 2014.
Mm-hmm.
And now the U.S. is going to leave. I mean, 7 months or so, they will be out, and Manas Air Base will be back in the hands of Kyrgyzstan. So, I mean, it's a little. I mean, this is necessary, right? Because
Yeah.
the war in Afghanistan, I think, will not really end. I mean, even though the soldiers are going to come back, most of them, they want to keep some of these soldiers in Afghanistan. The country is not secure from what I can tell. I mean, it's still a very dangerous place, you know, and especially in the mountains and a lot of the rural areas outside the city, outside the main cities, are not really controlled by the government,
There
right?
are military forces in Japan and South Korea, not the Philippines, maybe Indonesia or some place.
Yeah,
No,
right.
no India. The Pakistan, maybe Pakistan, American force. No.
It would be very difficult. I think Pakistan is kind of a black hole right now because of all of the drones and stuff that have been happening there. Pakistani people, I don't
Mm,
think, would like any American forces in their country because they are kind of a different case. I mean,
mm,
it's easy to go to Central Asia because those countries don't really have any history of bad relationships with the US. I mean, all the stans like Kyrgyzstan, Turkmenistan,
mm,
Tajikistan, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, right? All these countries are really just
mm-hmm,
they're old Soviet republics. They just don't really have much, you know.
mm.
So, but Pakistan is like a more regional power, nuclear weapons and big military. So, I think it would be a little bit of more of a problem if they wanted to get something in Pakistan. But
I checked the map. Romania is very close to Russia, next to Ukraine.
yeah, it's pretty
Mm,
close. Yeah. And Romania, I mean, I think it makes sense from a logistical standpoint because Romania is kind of on the way between Afghanistan and America, right? I mean, if you fly west from Afghanistan, you will reach Romania pretty, I think, it might, maybe not directly west, but you know, it's on the way. So it makes sense that they would choose Romania, but Kyrgyzstan is very close to Afghanistan, so
yes, yes.
it would have made it was probably more convenient for America to stay in
Mm,
Kyrgyzstan, but they weren't able to renew their lease. So I think that's an interesting kind of reason for maybe what's going on. But why do you think, Heidi, the United States has these military bases all over the world? So there's one in Okinawa. Um, there are many of these bases all over the world. What's the reason, do you think, that we have that many bases?
America wants to protect democracy, democracy and capitalism,
Hmm.
freedom.
But do you really think that they are doing this? I mean, is it what you said? If Obama was here, he would start clapping, right?
Yes.
Yay, Heidi,
Uh,
yay! But is that really the reality?
mm. But even Obama appreciates the democracy, capitalism.
Yeah. But could it be that, you know, we are trying to, the United States is trying to, you know, not only protect democracy and freedom, but also maybe
Mm,
keeping a closer eye on nearby countries and trying to monitor the activity of countries like Russia and China. I mean, why is Okinawa still part of
mm.
the U.S.? Why is there still a large U.S. base there, right? Because I mean, it's from World War II, right? I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
in the
America is looking at China.
yeah, I mean, I think it kind of makes sense, right? If you want Guam and all those islands that the United States has ownership over, right? They were all won in World War II, and they are just little specks, you know. Anywhere the U.S. needs to send a ship, a plane, you know, a military
Mm,
force of any kind, they have so many options
mm-hmm.
if they have these bases, right? So I think that's what makes it very interesting. Sorry, Heidi. I gotta talk to this one person very quickly. I'm just gonna say that I'm busy. Or
But
that's
I
my
think they think if America ignore any policies of other countries, then they want to keep only their country.
yeah.
Maybe
One second, Heidi.
world will change a lot.
One second, Heidi. Real sorry. جونم من کلینگا هستم دیگه بعدا صحبت میکنم با تو.
Mhm.
باشه ازم. فعلا خداحافظ جونم. Bye. Sorry, Heidi. I had to answer that real quick. So Yeah, I think. What was the last thing you said, Heidi? I'm really sorry. There's something about protecting imperialism.
Mm. America want to protect the freedom, right?
Yeah, I mean that's what they say, right? I mean, I
Mm.
think that's. I mean, it's. I'm sure it's part of the reason, but I
So
think, yeah,
America ignored other policies of other countries. Then they try only protecting themselves. Maybe world will be changed so much.
yeah. I mean, hmm, I don't know.
For
Is
example,
it? Yeah.
Japan maybe create a nuclear bomb,
Uh-huh.
nuclear weapon
Uh-huh.
if America ignored, because China already had and North Korea already had. We are very scared.
Yeah. So America is, I think you're right. I think part of the reason is definitely to protect America's allies all over the world, right?
Yes, yes.
Japan is a big example. Some
Mm,
countries in Europe, for example, Turkey. Turkey is
mm,
another major example. There's a very large U.S. military base in Turkey. But I think it depends really, right? It depends on what is being done and what is happening kind of on these bases, right? Sometimes,
mm,
I mean, there have been reports that these bases are used for more than just transit points. You know, they're used for detention centers, they're used for places where they can interrogate
mm,
prisoners and things like that, right? And I mean, Romania is a you know it's an up and coming country, right? It's not one of those countries that I mean, Eastern Bloc, we can say they were Eastern
mm,
European, definitely not the same level as maybe a Western European country in terms of development,
mm.
right? It's a poorer country, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Kyrgyzstan is also a pretty poor country. So
Mm,
I think the United States is able to manipulate some of these countries more because of their economic position. You know,
mm,
I mean, you can't buy a country like Germany. You can't buy out Germany because Germany is very powerful. But
mm,
you can use your military resources and your money to maybe sway a country like Romania, and Romania is, willing to give you the space and everything works out. But there might be more to it than that. I don't know a lot about the exact reasons, but um, sometimes the United States military uses these military outposts, bases for, all kinds of things, right? I think part of the reason is keeping a closer eye on countries like Russia and China,
mm.
and
Uh,
maybe, yeah, go
I
ahead.
read the map. Romania is very close to the uh, Syria or Egypt, right?
Yeah, I mean, Turkey is closer. Turkey is definitely a little bit closer, but Romania is just a little bit further north. So Turkey, Bulgaria, and then Romania is directly north. So
Mm,
it's close enough, I think. Yeah, it allows the U.S. to stay in touch with some of the important things that are going on in that part of the world, right? So I think it makes sense. Um,
mm.
do you think the Romanian people are going to be happy with this decision? That, I'm sure they're getting a lot of money from this from the United States, right?
I don't know about Romania. I've never been there, so I'm not sure if the people are friendly to America or not.
Yeah, I don't know either, but I think maybe if they hear about the reasons, right?
Hmm.
If their government presents them the pros and cons and says, bringing money for us, giving us access to American, you know, the military is going to be here, we are their hosts. I think some people will like the idea, right? But on the other hand, sometimes it's a little bit of an issue of national pride to have another country's military base in your country,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
I think there were situations in the past in Japan when Okinawa, it's
Mm.
still a little bit of a controversial thing that America has that base in Okinawa.
Yeah, even Philippines had a very big base camp, American base camp, but several, I don't know when they kicked out American military force.
Hmm.
Mm. Then after that, China came to the small island. They already made some station. station. They are stationary.
Mm-hmm.
So it means the Philippines lost one island. Always they say give back the island, but China ignored.
Yeah, China doesn't need to listen to anybody.
So we learned about that.
Yeah, and it's
Before,
controversial.
yeah, before Okinawa wanted to kick it out and America, but now we can't say that.
How come?
Because if America withdraw from Japan, maybe China will come.
Well, Shinzo Abe won't let that happen.
We don't have any weapon, and I mentioned the constitution. It's banned to fight to other countries.
Well, if somebody is attacking Japan, you can fight.
Protecting Japan, maybe it's okay, but even it's banned by constitution. Mm.
Interesting. I thought protection was always allowed. I mean, if another country is threatening Japan,
Mm-hmm.
definitely Japan should, you know,
Mm-hmm.
fight, right? Or I mean, if they actually attack Japan, then they can definitely,
Mm.
Japanese army can definitely fight in that example, right? But I mean, in history, like in the Middle East, for example, right, there used to be a lot of military bases in the Middle East, and now
Mm.
a lot of those military bases have changed location and they're in select countries. So, for example, Bahrain has the U.S. Navy, a large
Mm.
U.S. Navy base. The country of Qatar has a large U.S. military base as well. Before they used to be in Saudi Arabia, but then Saudi Arabia asked them to leave and they left, right?
Mm.
So it's almost like, the the idea that you're going to have soldiers of a different country in your country and
Mm.
potentially, the people are not always okay with a decision like that,
Mm.
right? So
Actually, UN need to work in that case, but the UN can't work enough. So America sometimes substitute to the UN, right?
does America shoot the UN?
Mm.
I don't think so.
They can't decide anything. Five
Oh,
permanent Security Council always have controversy. They can't decide
yeah,
anything.
they do. I think the five permanent members definitely when they
Mm.
disagree about something, then it doesn't work.
Yeah.
They have to all agree. If one doesn't
Mm.
agree, then nothing happens, right? So
Mhm.
it's part of it's a difficult decision, but yeah, the UN has peacekeepers, right? So the UN's kind of military arm is the UN peacekeeping force,
Yeah.
which they do just peacekeeping. They don't fight. They only defend civilians and people like that, from as far as I know. But even I don't think they are in the position to do a lot of this national type of stuff, right? Because this is all about the U.S., right? The U.S. has military bases. The U.S. has interests that it wants to defend, and as a result, they have these locations in different parts of the world. I mean, Britain also has a lot of bases. You know,
Mhm.
many of these bases are from when they were a colonial power, actually.
Oh,
So they
how
have
about
bases on the
France
islands.
or Germany?
Oh yeah, Germany not so much, but France has a lot.
Mm.
France has
American
bases
base?
in, well, no, not American bases. I mean,
Mm.
France has its own bases in many parts of the world.
Hmm. American, no, French army is quite strong.
French army is pretty strong, yeah, definitely. They're one of the leaders in Europe. Uh, there's a big American base in Germany. There's a lot of them in the Pacific Ocean, a lot of them in other countries. Um, the England has a lot of bases in other countries also, like islands and things like that.
Mm.
Or British territories, really, just small islands that are still part of England.
Mm.
Uh, and when it comes to
How about in Africa?
um,
For example, South Africa,
America,
no?
America probably has something in Africa. I don't know exactly a location, but I'm sure they have something. Especially
Mm.
maybe in like maybe not South Africa, because South Africa is a little bit of a delicate situation. It's a delicate country.
Mm.
Um, Probably North Africa somewhere. I would not be surprised if Egypt had a U.S. base, or maybe like a barracks or something like that. maybe Morocco.
Mm.
The other countries, I don't really know. Kenya, and probably not. I don't think Kenya has
Maybe
anything.
Nigeria.
Nigeria,
Mm.
maybe, but it's another one of those countries that's it's controversial country.
I had an American friend. He's working in a real estate company. Then he said, I'm going to Nigeria. He wanted to develop some place in Nigeria.
Hmm.
Then after that, I got news. American very big uh, electronic some appliance company. I don't know. I forgot the name. Decided to construct some electric and power generation plant in Nigeria.
Hmm.
So I asked him, "Is your job related to this?" He said, "Yes." So
Wow.
maybe Nigeria is very close to America.
Yeah, I think there are business interests definitely when it comes to
Mhm.
looking at, where Nigeria is Africa's largest country by population. It's a big market, right? So if you want to sell electronics and
Mm.
those kinds of things, Nigeria is a good way to enter the African market.
Yeah, Nigeria tried to construct some power plant, but they have a lot of corruption. So
Yeah,
it was not successful. So
yeah.
America decided to help because if they invite some companies, the electricity is a necessity.
Absolutely. Nigeria is unfortunately, one of the most corrupt countries in the world. I mean, every time there's a ranking of the world's most corrupt countries,
Mm-hmm.
Nigeria is on the list as like in the top 10.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of sad because a lot of potential, I mean, I think the resources are amazing. The population is very large population, a lot of young people. But there are religious differences and sectarian differences every once in a while. There's a lot of no, I shouldn't say a lot, but every once in a while there are kind of violent episodes in Nigeria. So you see
Mm.
like the Muslims and the Christians in that country are not really getting
I
along.
speak English.
They speak English, yeah,
So
their
he
official
said,
language.
I'm very comfortable. People speak English.
Yeah, I met a bunch of Nigerians when I was actually at my last job. I was in Texas once for a trip, and there I
Mm.
met a lot of Nigerian doctors.
Mm.
Um, very smart people. I mean, they very intelligent. English is perfect English. Like we were talking about pronunciation in the last class. They have their own Nigerian accent. It's
Mm.
similar to the West African accent. So people from Ghana, Nigeria, Ivory Coast,
Mm.
Cameroon, those countries, they speak more or less similarly. When it comes to their way of speech, it's similar,
Mm.
but very fascinating. I would love to go, but I would need somebody to help me because it's dangerous. I wouldn't want to go alone or something like that.
Yeah. He said the hotel is very comfortable. So if I have a chance, I want to go there.
Yeah,
Nigeria.
yeah. I think it'd be great. I really want to see Africa, like
Mm.
sub-Saharan Africa. Africa below the Middle East or non-Arab Africa. Uh, I think West Africa would be a fantastic location, like
Yeah.
Nigeria, Ghana, Ivory Coast, Senegal. Even though they speak French, Senegal I think would be a really nice country to visit. Um, a lot of culture. Africa is the continent I know the least about.
Yes, yes. I
You
think so.
know,
Me too.
yeah. So that's why I really want to like see it.
Mm.
You know, that's how you learn. You have to go live there and see it.
I have only two friends in Africa.
Really?
One is Côte d'Ivoire,
Yeah. Ivory Coast. Yeah.
mm, and maybe Nigeria.
Hmm.
Facebook friend.
I have this one friend from Ghana, and
Mm,
I think she's the only person. I have a bunch of people I know in Morocco,
mm,
but that's North Africa. many from Egypt, but once again, that's North Africa. I'm thinking of non-Arab Africa, so south of the Sahara Desert. Yeah, I think it's really fun, you know.
I remember another friend, Mozambique.
Oh yeah, that's definitely Southern Africa. Yeah,
Yes.
that's much Southeastern Africa actually.
Yeah, he's very funny. He's Skype friend, my Skype friend.
Mozambique. Excuse me. Mozambique is actually a very interesting country because they started as a kind of a colonial outpost of Portugal.
Yeah, before the calling was for free, right? That time I introduced him. Let's learn English with me and the calling. It's free, but he is very shy. My
Oh.
English is not good. Ha 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 like that.
No, I'm sure it's good. If you can type it, then it's good. It's a lot of people. I feel like they're nervous when it comes to speaking, but you know, they shouldn't be. I mean, that's how you learn. Nobody, teachers. I mean, like I'm not really. I'm just, you know me. I mean, I just talk. I enjoy speaking. You know, if people want to have a conversation, I don't care. You know, I like to speak a lot. So people should be more easygoing. It's not I'm not grading you. I'm not saying, "Oh, okay, today Heidi got a 98, tomorrow Heidi gets a 97," because, you know, it's not a grade. I mean, it's just talking, you know.
Yeah.
So, no, it's nice.
I can get a lot of information from other students.
Yeah.
I didn't know before about Egypt or some Cambodia or Saudi Arabia and Turkey. I didn't know that.
Yeah. There's a lot to see. There's a lot to see and a lot to learn. I think a community like this, where we can actually bring together all these people, and, you know, I mean, they all have the mutual desire to learn English, but I mean, you know, conversations start from just brand new people giving different ideas and, you know, different thoughts, and everything comes together, and we learn from each other, and you know, we enjoy that experience. I enjoy that experience. I mean, sometimes we have those classes where there's two guys from Brazil, one person from South America.
A student came from Romania. One student, Romania.
This is back in the past.
Recently, I've never seen him.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But there were a bunch of Russian students that were in one of my classes last week, actually.
Yes, many Russian.
Eugenie was one of them. Excuse me, Heidi. I'm sorry.
Vladimir.
Yeah. Vladimir. I've seen Vladimir as well. Yeah. Yeah. Great. Well, Heidi, once again, a pleasure. Unfortunately, I'm sorry no one else joined, and we were just speaking. I hope you enjoyed it. I didn't bore you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I enjoyed it very much.
Awesome. You're welcome. No questions about any of the stuff that I did before I leave. I just want to make sure. Did you have any questions?
Okay. I already learned many times about the frequency.
Okay, fantastic. Well, Heidi, have a great rest of the day, and I will be once again starting class tomorrow morning. And if you want to join, I'll see you then.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Take care, Heidi.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You too. There to join a few classes, but yeah, otherwise it's been a lot of Brazilian people, a lot of people from South America in general, actually, and also from Saudi Arabia, a decent amount. So interesting situation. But yeah, it's good. It's very good. I like the diversity we have on Colingo. We have people from many countries. Yeah. And the teachers also are from many different places. So some of the teachers are from Canada, some of them are British, some of them are Americans. So you guys get a good mix of different accents and different, you know, perspectives. That's always very important. But yeah, besides that, I mean, things are pretty good, I think.
One of new teacher at Britain, his accent is much different.
Oh, really?
Yeah, sometimes I couldn't understand.
What's his name?
Uh, I forgot.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's sometimes it's there's a ton of people that we have to sometimes remember names. I know a few people joined recently,
Mhm.
but yeah, I was looking at some of the pictures that some of the Colingo folks are putting on the Facebook site. A lot of activity, actually. People are sharing news about concerts coming up and musicians and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, so interesting stuff. There seems to be a lot of students from different parts of the world, of course, but some of them seem to be a lot of Saudi Arabian students, a lot of Brazilian students.
Yes, yes.
Seems like
Saudi
Colingo.
Arabia and Brazil and huge amount, almost all,
Yeah,
maybe 70% of students.
really, that high.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Japan only two.
Yeah, you and Ken. I've seen you and Ken. I think was there maybe one other person? I don't remember. Maybe one other Japanese person, but maybe not actually. I think it was just you
Recently,
guys.
Chinese students disappeared. How do you think?
Yeah, there are a few Chinese students. I know some of them. Every once in a while, they have some. Hey, Adi, welcome back.
Hello, nice to see you again.
Yeah, nice to see you as well.
Hmm.
How's everything going?
I think the same.
Same
It
as a couple of minutes
only
ago.
passed
Yeah.
fast.
Uh-huh. No, absolutely. Things change like that.